He knows me well.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to call this meeting to order. If you bow your heads, we'll have invocation. Heavenly Father, let our deliberations and actions be acceptable in your sight. Amen. Let's pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gentlemen, the purpose of this meeting is onefold, which is listed. Should you have something else at this time you want to add, or you want to amend it, I'd like to know at this time. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion's made that we approve the agenda as written. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Bloodworth. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Our agenda is set. Bland, I'm going to ask you if you would come up to the podium and describe for us our notification and the history of what's occurred.
Last Thursday, I don't remember who it was, told me that there was an odor that it was detecting over on, actually Pine Street is where they were detecting it. And Chris and two guys went over there, they walked through the woods, and we did have a pipe on that side suspended, but it was fine. But next morning I went by there and I talked to Chris. I said, Chris, follow this upstream. And I said, we got a problem somewhere. And sure enough, about a few minutes later, he said, man, you need to come see this. And I couldn't even get back there to it. In fact, Chris couldn't even get to it. There was many trees and logs had dropped and just crushed about 45, 46 feet of that cast iron line. There's several things had to be done before we could do anything. And we got Dave Deeps in there. We did not have the equipment to go in that branch. Chris made a rough trail in from the back side as best he could, but he couldn't. It was too boggy. And Dave Deeps came in there, and it was night before we got trees down, trees out of the way. They temporarily patched the thing with PVC pipe. We're supposed to be getting, any time now, the 12-inch pipe come back and make it permanent. We had a bunch of trees that had to be removed that were still standing before we could do anything. And it's not going to be a cheap or an easy finish. I believe it's close enough now, it won't take much more. But that was a lot of work had to go into that, and we immediately, I told Luke to go ahead and inform EPD and get started upstream, downstream. He did, and he got a complete compilation here. All the notifications been taken care of, paper, actually the radio station and television has to be reported as to. You got to do the upstream, downstream for a certain period of time. And it's just standard procedure, because we've done everything, you've done right to the T with the paperwork. And Bill Hawthorne did come down and be very nice about it. He said, one thing about it, nobody can tell or say what's going to happen without God. He said, this is the act of God. He said, do what you're supposed to do, just keep doing it and do it right. And that's where we're at now.
Any questions for Mr. Williams? Okay, Opie, if you would come give us a recap of what all was necessary in the reporting.
Well, as he said, I reported to we started monitoring within 2 hours of being notified. EPD was notified within 2 hours of us being aware of the spill. I had to hand deliver some of my papers. him to the paper, and I had to email blank copies unsigned. They all got them within a 24-hour notification period, and they got signed copies yesterday. We done everything right by our permits, everything is in order. I even emailed Bill pictures of what has actually happened with all the trees and all, so everything done by the book. And right along with our permit, he seemed to be affiliated with it. But we also had a DNR going downstream from us, and I spent about the 5 Friday going downstream with them, to make sure we hadn't impacted nothing. And we showed no sign of impact in the Bully Creek or the river basin or nothing. We had a couple of the things that had happened that actually helped us. And that's where somebody put a pond dam across there and had a water hyacinth field full of grass and water hyacinth and cattails. That's actually gonna filter before it gets downstream. So we're in pretty good shape with that.
And when Bill left, Mr. Hawthorne with EPD, what was his last remarks to us?
That he was satisfied with it. He said, just keep up what we're doing, just get it repaired.
Okay.
And we done showed a drop in the bacteria counts and all over already. So we done something right.
I think the only thing that, wait a minute, I think the only thing that we may have left out in the description of the events is when we got in there, there was some huge pine trees in the edge, right at the edge of the yard, of Mr. Graham's yard, that were grown over into our.
I covered them in there, that letter said that we had to remove some stuff.
And when Dave got there and looked at the height, I said, Dave, can you take your big boom and get these and handle this so we can go? And he said, Mayor, he says, I can't do this. It's too dangerous. So I immediately called Georgia Power, and Georgia Power responded within 45 minutes. They were on the job site, and when they got there with their big truck to get in and help us to take care of what needed to be done, they said, Mayor, this is out of our reach.
Well, I put in the letter, we had multiple crews in there working on it.
Yeah, but they stayed with us all day. That when they got there, I think around 11 o'clock. And the Georgia Power stayed with us till everything was down, about dark. And with the crew, they recommended the folks that had a 102-foot apparatus to get up there and take them down, those trees down. So we got that done, and then I saw that we promised EPD that we would make a correction, even though it was temporary, that day and stop that spill. And we lived up to that commitment. I went to Charles Wasden. He brought temporary lights, set up in Mr. Graham's yard, and Chris and his full crew, there was 4 or 5 of them, worked till about 10:30, putting a pipe insert and a boot in the other end. And before we left there, between 10:30 and 11 o'clock, we had a little leak, but not much. We had accomplished what we told them we would do.
I'll let EPD help us establish the volume to keep any question out of it. And he established the volume that was lost over 11-day period of 1.5 million plus. But he said that to be accurate, he said, the lift station going off, he said, just use a 1.5 million number, which is a considerable spill.
You know, the other thing I would say to the council, if you haven't been over, it's now where you can walk and look at that. You can actually get through, you might get your feet a little muddy. You can get through from one end to the other on foot. But if not, if you go to Connor Street and come in, come to over on Plum behind Mr. Graham's house, you can look at this project and see what's involved in it and see it with your own eyes. The one thing that's in there, Glenn, tell them about the septic tank in there.
There, that's also the area that the city of Haysburg had their very first sewer system. And there's I guess you call it a septic tank. It's probably 80 foot long and 30 foot wide. And that's where all the sewage.
That was the end of the line.
Originally
Yeah.
went to. And I don't know if they had drain lines or they just went from that thing into the creek.
We don't believe it just spilled directly into the creek, but that was the end of the sewer system.
That was pre-1948 because that line was tied on to and carried to the Imhoff tank, which was put in 1948. So this was prior to 1948 when this septic system was put in there.
Are we gonna replace this entire pipe?
We're gonna replace, we've got 60 feet, I hope that they're unloaded over there now. They said they would unload it between 10 and 12. And Mr. Deeks has said he'll be back with his machine with the proper straps and harness with our team, and we'll start putting it back together as soon as it's here. And then we seem to think, according to Chris and Dave, I think we'll have it permanently, well, let me say 95% permanently fixed before the sun goes down. The thing is, in there where this pipe is up, you've got to pull concrete piers. Right now, we're gonna install it and use concrete blocks to get it up to grade. And then we're gonna come back in between those blocks and pull permanent cement piers. But other than the piers, Glenn, it will, don't you think it'll be corrected by dark? Assuming that all of our material comes in, all sorts of things can happen. Okay, any questions?
And my question was answered because I was gonna ask, did they give us a time limit on that? And, how much bill had you all taken care of? It sounded like you got both of it.
Okay.
But he didn't give us a time limit.
Well, he wanted it repaired immediately, that's one of the things we do. And
Yes,
it
we-
was, we just told him to, we couldn't safely put employees in there because there was a safety factor involved in that too. So in the letter you read I told him until we could safely access the sewer line to repair it. And I told him as soon as we could safely access it, we would repair it, and it was repaired the same day.
I'll go with it. As long as we don't, our bacteria readings stay acceptable, we don't have to go in there and remove any of that stuff. Okay.
Well, I just wanted y'all to know what it going, actually, Bland and his crew, the day before, on Thursday, he was notified and found this out on Friday. The day before, tell them about that catastrophe they had with Thief over there on Pine Forest.
We came, they started calling me about 6:30 about low water pressure. That's on Pine Forest, that's a fairly new line, it was put in around 2000. But we had an 8-inch water main, and I don't know why, it just had about a 4 or 5 foot split in it. We had about 600 to 800 gallons a minute just flowing in the ditch. And we worked pretty much all day long on that one.
We thought the devil was after us on Thursday was what we had to deal with over there. It was bad. And then to wake up Friday morning with this, I'm sure you folks, it was double bad. We had a heck of a mess, and we're not through yet. We're not through yet. Go ahead.
How soon I see our insurance here, they gonna take care of this?
Would you like
Ms.
me
Reynolds,
to-
would you come up?
Would you like me to talk now?
Hey, look, if you would, you did bring crying towels with you, didn't you?
I brought some crying towels, and I can tell you that, we are all gonna be crying about this. Just because something happens, doesn't mean there's coverage. Just because something happens doesn't mean there's coverage. And this council needs to keep that in mind when they pay claims that the insurance company doesn't pay. If you ever pay one, you're setting a precedence. So I need you to hear me good here today. An act of God is not covered because we're not legally liable for an act of God. City of Hazelhurst is not legally liable for an act of God. So, there is no coverage as far as the city is concerned. Now, we can get sued, of course. They can sue, the property owners can sue One Beacon. But they're not, I mean, in all likelihood, unless they can come up with a reason that we were negligent. Now, take for instance, if we were out there working on this property and we backed the tractor up and hit that pipe and caused it to burst and then so that's one thing, there'd be coverage there. But we didn't do anything to do this. And just because, yesterday, Charles, I wish he was here today. Yesterday, Charles was at my office and we were talking about this, and just because we have an easement on property, we don't own that property. We are not liable for things that is on an easement. The city of Hazelhurst, there's no way that we can insure all the pipes that run for the city of Hazelhurst. There's just, anything underground pipe, there's never any coverage for an underground pipe at all. This is above ground, but it's not our private property. If it was on our private property, then yes, we could have some coverage there. But it's not on our private property. We don't own that property. Others own that property. So there's no coverage there. Now, getting to the property side of it, the pipe itself. Okay, that's the liability, because we have to be legally liable before we pay something. And if the city of Hazelhurst takes it upon themselves to pay it, I want you to know this. If the city of Hazelhurst takes it upon themselves to pay a claim for a homeowner that's been affected by this, then you go out there and you send all these workers out there to do this. Anything that happens to one of our workers, or anything that happens to their property, there's no coverage there, because we already told you, we're not legally liable to do that. So we wouldn't, if we damage something else or do something else, they're gonna deny the claim, because we're telling you now, there's no coverage there. It's just like, in the past, we've had, take for instance, Wayne Hall situation out there. The city didn't do anything legally liable for that. They investigated it and everything. There's nothing that we did. We didn't know that, we didn't do anything to cause that to happen. So we're not legally liable for the backup into his house. And like I say, as far as this property coverage is concerned and all, there is coverage for above ground pipe. We could cover that under personal property, but there again, it's not on our property. So it's not on a covered property. And like I say, we do have, like for instance, we can count in the city of Hazelhurst and know how many fire hydrants there are. So the above ground fire hydrants are covered. We've got them covered under the policy. But there's no way that we can cover, or that we, the above ground pipes and stuff like that. So there's just no way that we know it. And any act of God like that, it's just not covered. And like I say, just because it happens doesn't mean we're liable for it. So keep that in mind when you're talking to these property owners and everything too,
I don't understand how we pay premiums and we have insurance to cover some unforeseen act, but then when it's time to file a claim, that is not covered.
You gotta be legally liable for it. That's the whole purpose of insurance, is if you're legally liable for it. Like I said, if you was out there with a tractor, and ran into this pipe, we legally caused that to happen. We caused it to happen. But now, let me tell you this too. I have got the property adjuster and I've got the liability adjuster on my phone. And they are willing to answer any questions that you have. Both of them, the adjusters, and they'd be glad to. I would put. Do you have the phone in here that?
Yes, we have. But now let me ask you a question. Now, you said something a minute ago that's got my curiosity, and we're not being argumentative.
I understand, because I wish it was covered. I personally wish it was covered.
But we're just trying to, but you said a minute ago that our fire hydrant's sitting there and a tree falls over and hits our fire hydrant, we're covered.
Because we've got them scheduled under Inland Marine, under our policy.
All right.
Because we knew how many they were and where they are.
Here's what I want to say to you, and again, not being argumentative, but the facts. I see absolutely no difference than this above ground sewer line that we've got there, and a tree hitting it than I do a fire hydrant.
Well, the difference is, the company was told, we were told where each fire hydrant was at. The company knows where the fire hydrants are, but never once has anybody, I didn't know there was a above ground pipe over there.
We got a lot of above ground pipes.
Y'all didn't tell me that.
Yeah, but you knew we had fire, well, honey, I'd like to say, let's don't get off.
I knew you got fire hydrants.
I understand what you're saying.
I don't know,
Tell the insurance, the person that's responsible, now, I don't want to, him come in, the council, whoever's got the authority to make an analysis of this with, say, our attorneys, tell them we need to talk to them. And on a phone situation, tell them we need to come see us.
Well,
So you're saying that if we want these above ground pipes covered, we have to rewrite the insurance policy?
Well, we
and
just
pay
have to add them and pay for the coverage.
Pay for the coverage.
But let me tell you, there again, you're gonna be paying inland marine prices and
I
stuff,
understand.
and it's expensive. I mean, you know, it'd be expensive. But who was to ever know that a hurricane had come through Hazelhurst, Georgia either, you know what I mean, and stuff. So, let me look at my notes one more time too, let me see. Anything that's sudden and accidental like that, if it's you know, an act of God, sudden and accidental, you know, there's no coverage for that. And get back to you, I'm not trying to be short with you or anything like that.
Oh, no, I understand that. I just don't understand that, and I'm not saying with your agency.
I
So
understand.
the insurance period, that when you're paying the premiums every month, it's fine. But when it starts to file a claim, then start looking at loopholes as to why you can't pay that claim. Not
Okay.
you, but
I
insurance.
understand. But let me tell you this though too. Have you seen the claims that we have
I
paid?
understand that.
I mean, I'm serious. So it's not, you can't just lump it just when we have a claim, the insurance doesn't pay. Because we have paid golly off a number of claims in the last 3 years. We have
Makes our
inundated,
premiums go up and we pay too.
which has inundated them with claims. And we were legally liable for those claims, so we paid them. But if we were not legally liable for it, they're not gonna pay it.
Right.
So,
I understand what you're saying.
I just wanted to make sure, and if on the cities, you know, in talking to these people, or anything that's affected by this, one thing that they need to know, they have the right, anybody has the right to file a claim, but they'll have to be the one to file a claim against the city, and then they'll defend it, you know, or whatever, or, well, let me put it this way, they'll tell them there's no coverage, is what they're gonna do.
Okay, I think we understand that, and thank you, here, we're not being argumentative.
I realize that, and I don't wanna be argumentative with
Yeah.
y'all, I just want you to understand where we're coming from.
Thank you, Eric. Another thing, council, if y'all haven't been over there and looked at this, and let me tell you something else too, and we haven't uncovered, Glenn, you may need to go and uncover that manhole. We've got a manhole as far as from here to Bland in the backyard of that man's house. That house was built on top of this 12-inch line. And I guess the manhole was covered up at the time the building.
You used to see it, but right now it's covered up.
Well, did they build that house? Did the Elsie Hatton build that house?
I really had, and that's for my time.
I know,
didn't really have
but
one.
how in the world, with us with the easement on that line, I know they've, I've got Natasha looking for it. How in the world did we build a house on a 12-inch sewer main within 16 feet in the backyard of a manhole covered, a big manhole?
Nathan Deed did the same thing, he built his house on top of it, and Dan Henson built his tennis court right on top of a manhole.
Council, y'all need to help us, but we've got, and just like, we had called in this crew here with Georgia Power, and Dave and them got there and said, these trees that have grown there had wrapped themselves around this thing. If they had gone, not only was it with a mess that we had to get to, but it would have disrupted, instead of 60 feet, 100 and something feet of that pipe. That's the biggest mess. I thought we had a mess Thursday, but it wasn't nothing compared to this. Any further questions? I just wanted to make sure everybody was abreast of everything. Any questions? Mr. Johnson?
So move.
Mr. Johnson, move to adjourn. Second by Mr. Bloodworth. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, good day, gentlemen.
Before y'all leave,
Whoa, I'm sorry. I promised her. Listen, there's several things that Bernice asked me, honey, you just gonna have to start elbowing me. She's got, Tommy, the pictures this afternoon.
What now?
no, this is in the next year. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Photos this afternoon at 5:20, blue shirt, khaki pants, bring your sport coat, bring your tie. Also in front of you, and Miss Brenda, I need to give you one. Tierra Caliente Mexican Restaurant is having their City Appreciation Night tomorrow night from 6 to 10 o'clock. They're inviting the city members plus other people, to attend. They will open beginning Thursday. This is the restaurant next to Piggly Wiggly. Also, Miss Brenda, regarding some of this information Chief Wanston got with me, we're keeping photos, overtime, everything, because Chief Wanston told me to start a file for FEMA,
Right,
so that he can get with them.
right,
Okay?
Not only FEMA, but GMA as well, Georgia, and the federal.
right. but-
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, thank you, I'm sorry, Bernie, she's going to start elbowing everything, I'm sorry. All right, we are adjourned, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Who's second?
Mr. Ludwig.
I'm sorry.